It's Halloween's month, All Hallows Eve, the spooky season, whatever you want to call it, and as a survival horror fan myself, I'm going to bring you a list of upcoming horror video games that you might not even want to miss. And I'm not kidding at all, October and even 2022 is packed with tons of horrific titles. But before deep diving, I'd like to introduce this season with a brief introduction about how much it means to me. You see, as a Latin American and Costa Rican myself, it was always difficult for me to celebrate this time of the year, considering how strict Catholic beliefs were in a place such as Costa Rica, for instance. One day I remember walking around with a costume asking for candies with my brothers across different houses. The next year, it was all banned by the church, and therefore no one dared to celebrate it until probably in the recent decade. The government even decided to create Dia de las Mascaradas with some local traditions to stop other authorities from complaining. It may feel as cultural appropriation, but I'm not totally against it. As long as you know your roots and know where you're from, you're free to celebrate what you believe or what you enjoy as long as you're not hurting others. After all, Santa Claus is not part of our culture either, and yet he proclaims attention since September. But then, of course, in the vast sea of thoughts and universes, there's people like me who like to celebrate it. Whether it's a private and flashy Halloween party, decorating, dressing, watching movies, and playing video games, it's the moment of goosebumps. And of course, this is difficult to describe for a non-enthusiast, but to put it simply, the fear of the unknown grants us a mixed bag of emotions that we love to feel and even try to understand. I personally don't believe in ghosts or an afterlife, but I'm constantly devouring media that talks about it, probably as a way of feeling scared and try to understand others' emotions at the same time. Other times, the media uses art as a way to expose topics in a horrific way in order to explain or study a subject, which I find very interesting. In video games, it is particularly special because you're part of the narrative structure. You have accountability on every action you make while incarnating the character. I won't promise you will have a good time playing the upcoming 6 games, and I haven't played most of them, but based on my experience, I have a feeling this will be a great choice for Halloween. And oh yeah, most of these games are going to be available on Xbox Game Pass for console and PC, so you better pay attention to my lower thirds on each game for more info. So let's get started. Coming earlier than expected, there's Scorn releasing on October 14, which is self-described as an atmospheric first-person horror adventure game set in a nightmarish universe of odd forms and somber tapestry. As mentioned previously on an Xbox-related showcase, this title has everything I never knew I needed from a horror game. You wake up in an industrialized and nightmarish world, long gone and abandoned by any known life form, and it is up to you to find a way out, or to be part of the horrors. The art style is heavily inspired by H.G. Geiger's, with lots of visually stunning world designs of his that always evokes an amalgamation between humans and machines. It looks like a shooter, but it's more of a stealth game with exploration elements where you focus more on solving puzzles and avoiding conflict. Coming up the next week, we'll have A Plague Tale: Requiem, a long-awaited sequel to a critically acclaimed gem back in 2018. The first game is an emotional tale of 2 kids surviving the rat plague and the hostile crusaders during the Middle Ages. Again, it feels like an action game, but you're really hiding from enemies and avoiding conflict at all costs. And when it happens, you're defending yourself with a slingshot and the power of nature. Supernatural adversities as rats, to be specific. The first one was a short story that tied bonds for each brother and is easy to recommend for those fans of games like The Last of Us. Requiem will take place 6 months after the events of the first game with the same cast, Hugo and Amicia, on his attempt to live a new life away from dangers in the south of France. The art direction will be made beautifully with its own technology. No wonder why they chose them to create a game like Microsoft Flight Simulator, for instance. Action elements feel more present now that Amicia has a crossgun, and it seems there's more confrontation with enemies. One thing I'd recommend, play it in French, please. It really delivers an authenticity to the max.
Pour la dernière fois, où est votre fils?
Amicia!
Vous êtes inconscient! Partez quand vous...
The game definitely has some horror elements, so I recommend it unless you have a terrifying fear of rats, and of course, humanity itself. And on the same day, we have Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, another spooky multiplayer horror game that I personally won't have the time to play, but of course I'll not miss the opportunity to mention it. Considering IllFonic is developing the title, I'm talking about the guys behind Predator, Hunting Grounds, and Friday the 13th game. We knew sooner or later that Phasmophobia will inspire someone to make a Ghostbuster multiplayer video game. In comparison to their previous titles, this is a family-friendly multiplayer where 4 Ghostbusters will try to catch a spirit which is controlled by another player. We have different ghosts with different variations of defense. For example, we can scare the hell out of people around the area to make a distraction and intend to escape. Then of course you can shoot slime and other familiar tricks. As a Ghostbuster, you have to rescue civilians and find a ghost with the PKA meter, catch the classic traps and the infamous Proton Pack. The memorable fire station can be explored as you level up and customize your character. Also, Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson are back to portray Ray and Winston respectively, just a bit of nostalgia for all fans. Both characters are there to help you understand the lore. IllFonic also included a new cast to expand the universe a bit more. Coming up on October 27th, we have Signalis, a survival horror heavily inspired by games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Although the more you look into it, the more unique it feels. The game starts with our protagonist Elster, a technician replica that crashed into a snowy planet in an attempt to find her missing crew member. Below the surface, she will find ruins of an abandoned labor camp. Little does she know that the planet is infested with cosmic horror-esque creatures, lots of puzzles, and a hostile environment where ammunition is scarce, leaving the player to decide whether it is safe to attack or to run. I honestly love how the game looks. It has a mix between the old aesthetics from a PlayStation 1 survival horror and more recent horror classics like Dead Space. The game was developed by 2 designers from Rose Engine in Germany during the COVID lockdown, Yuri Stern and Barbara Whitman. For those curious, it will have a physical version in Japan which you can actually get in PlayAsia. And here comes my eternal drama of whether you get it on digital or on physical. It would be great to have it on my collection, but anyways, do not skip on this one since it seems to have a lot of potential. The next day, fans will feast on Bayonetta 3, an action game with lots of spooky elements that represents the Halloween spirit the most. What? You're not convinced that Bayonetta 3 is a Halloween game? Okay, let's checklist. It's a hack and slash action style game with a time-bending witch that has fought angels and demons, and this time will face monstrous creations made by humans named homunculi with the help of symbiotic-like kaiju monsters. What other clues do you want? It seems this one to be the last of a trilogy. By looking at the art direction, it honestly feels like a well-polished game from the PlayStation 3 era, probably because of the hardware limitations. But that won't stop Platinum Games from making a solid gaming experience relying on 60 FPS in combat and a new arsenal to use. It seems we'll visit different places around the world like Tokyo or China, and I wonder if they'll show relatable monsters to the place. Then we have Viola, a fisty witch in training that carries a sword and fights along the demon Cheshire. It reminds me of someone else. Anyways, I can't wait to try this game out and deep dive into this over-the-top narrative. Finally, and on the same day, we'll have the Winter's expansion of Resident Evil Village. And don't you just love when developers take their time to develop a DLC? In this case, we'll receive 3 great additions to the highly acclaimed title. A Mercenaries mode with the appearance of 4 returning characters from the main storyline. Ethan Winters, Chris Redfield, Alcina Dimitrescu, and Lord Karl Heisenberg, each one with their own unique abilities to fight. Of course, I'll prefer Heisenberg with his magnetic abilities and steel arsenal. Then we have Shadows of Rose, an epilogue chapter explaining the whereabouts of the new debuting character and her return to the infamous village. And finally, we have a third-person camera inclusion for all the modes mentioned previously, and also the original story that gives you a different perspective of the infamous village, and places like the Steel Factory and the Dimitrescu Castle and many more will going to look like never seen before. I mean, that's enough for an excuse to replay this game again in my case. You can get the expansion by purchasing Resident Evil Village Gold Edition or getting the expansion separately. If you haven't tried this title, I think it's the one that represents the most of the Halloween spirit. You incarnate Ethan Winters on his desperate search to find his kidnapped daughter at a village in Eastern Europe, presumably and hopefully Romania. There you will face lots of monsters based on bioorganic weapons that of course mutate to more relatable monsters with some unique twists like werewolves, vampire-like witches, dolls, giant sharks and so much more. It has a lot of movie references similar to Resident Evil 7 that every horror fan will spot on. So these are all the games you can get on this October. As you noticed, there's a meal for every known fear, and there's body horror, thriller fantasy, horror comedy for all ages, cosmic horror, spooky action, and classic horror-esque tales. There's simply no way to not be part of the Halloween season in gaming, but I'll probably miss some gems, so let me know in the comments. Which games have I missed? Which of the games are you going to play? What is your favorite horror genre? As always, if you like my content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to receive more content like this. Happy Halloween month, and stay tuned for my next horrifying video to celebrate more of this spooky season. Coming up, I'll show to you a list of all Halloween games already released and a few others to be released after October. It is no joke that 2022 is a fascinating year for horror. Hope you enjoy and stay cursed!